your mind.
Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday, the 8th of November, 2015, and we're down here in the lovely Studio 2 with a few new bits that we're going to give a trial run tonight and see how we get on.
Yeah, we are. So I'm actually sitting here with my fingers crossed and my toes crossed and everything else, hoping that everything goes to plan and there's no hiccups. So hopefully it's all sounding good. If there's any problems or issues, just let us know as usual on the chat room and we'll turn it up or turn it down or whatever you request.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, right, on the show tonight we have two guests. Our first guest is a Irish comedian called Aiden Killian. Aiden's just written his book called Dear Plonker, and we're going to be talking to Aiden about that. And our second guest at 8 o'clock will be a personal friend of mine, Lorraine, which I call her Rainey. And Rainey was one of the people that was responsible for kind of waking me up, all that, going back in time into 2001. So I'm going to be talking about really what happened from there, and then obviously talk to Rainey about what she's up to, because not only did it kind of wake me up after reading books and stuff like that and us talking about it, but her life kind of changed as well with a lot of things going on. So we'll find out what she's up to as well, and just catch up on the day-to-day stuff that she's doing. But before we go any further, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Yes, communication channels this evening are...
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Yes, 046 927 1212 is the phone number. Unfortunately, because we are in Studio 2 this evening, you will not get us on that phone number. However, if you want to take a trip to the website, oymradio.com, you can check us out there. We have the link there to anti-social media. That's the Facebook link. You can log in, you can befriend us there and see what we're up to. Send us a couple of links. We'll check those out as usual. We also have the TuneIn Radio Link application for your smartphone or your iPhone. You can log into your whatever store you go into, the Apple Store or the Google Store, the Play Store, and you can download that, stick it on your device, and you'll be able to get us on your phone or your tablet or any such device. What else we got on the website? We have the link for the YouTube channel. You can catch a lot of our podcasts over there as well. And I think that's about it. We've also got the chat room. Sorry. Chat rooms on oymradio.com. A big hi to everybody logged in there, and also a big hi to everyone logged into People's Internet Radio chat room as well. And also a hi to our brothers and sisters in the US of A. We're also streaming on the UWS stream as well, which I always forget to mention. Alan.
Brilliant stuff. Cheers, Steve. Right, as usual, just a couple of things before we bring our guest in. Now, as you probably heard during the week, the Jobstown 27, they got their case put back till the 14th of December. And, we all know it's got to do with political policing. This was the case where Joan Bruton was actually in the back of a car for 2 hours, and she said she was in entrapment. She was trapped there, and the actual protesters wouldn't let her go. The poor little soul. God help her. But anyway, that's good news that it was actually put back. And to be honest with you, if there's an election coming up next year, the worst thing they could do is find any of these people to convict any of them. I mean, I think we all know how, the corruption that's going on. We see it on a daily basis, what's going on, the propaganda in the media and everything else. And for them to turn around, and again, as I say, it's political policing because Joan called the police and the police turned up. So, she's a politician, she called the police. It was just ridiculous. I think we all know, what the issue is and what's going on there. And this is being used more and more. We're seeing a lot more TDs and politicians use this political policing for their own good. But hopefully they'll have common sense and they'll realise that, look, we have an election coming up. The worst thing we could do is actually, have any fines or any imprisonment for these people with an election coming up. It's not going to go down good. So for the politicians out there who might listen to this show, I recommend you tell your bosses to just drop the cases and then let it go, because it's not going to do your political career any good. Not that your career is any good at the moment anyway. But there you go. And Steve's going to tell us about the Holocaust denier the chap who was arrested for 5 months, I think.
Yeah, it says here, a judge has jailed a Holocaust denier for 5 months for using performance art in the public square in Ennis to further his claims that the Holocaust did not take place. At Ennis District Court, Judge Patrick Durkin jailed 49-year-old Dermot Mulqueen of Steeles Terrace, Ennis, for 5 months for the lunchtime public performance on January 23rd of this year, where he put an axe through a TV at the Daniel O'Connell Monument in Ennis Town Centre. Judge Durkin jailed Mr Mulqueen for 5 months for breaching Section 9 of the Firearms Act and 2 months for breaching Section 6 of the Public Order Act. Right, okay. Firearms Act. Okay. Mr Mulqueen told the court that the performance art entitled Liberation of the Mind was carried out to launch International Holocaust Hoax Day. Prior to carrying out the performance in front of a crowd of mainly teenagers in Ennis, Mr Mulqueen informed his Twitter followers what he was about to do. In front of a crowd at the monument, Mr Mulqueen had erected a sign entitled International Holocaust Hoax Day. Sentencing Mr Mulqueen, Judge Durkin said that Mr Mulqueen may have a view and an interpretation of history, but it is an historical fact that the Holocaust was the greatest crime perpetuated against a section of mankind in the history of mankind. Well, I mean, that's... Where's freedom of speech?
Well, this is it.
We either have it or we don't, and it seems like we don't. So, I mean, 5 months in prison?
5 months in prison for that. And yet you can go and screw the country and destroy the banking, I was going to say destroy the banking system, but actually screw the banking system, and you get off with it. It's just, it is ridiculous, And he said it was a performance at the end of the day. It was performance art. That's what he called it. So, who are they to define performance art? Anyway.
But that's like us. I mean, that's like us saying something in relation to 9/11. 9/11 didn't happen, so we could say 9/11 was a hoax, it was a false flag. So obviously the precedent that has been set down by that judge means that if we were to say that in the public arena, then we too could be jailed.
Yeah. It's getting worse, this control over free speech, but we'll see what happens. How's your week anyway? Yeah,
my week's been fine. Nothing major on the horizon. There's just a couple of things that I have opened here on the computer in front of me that I wanted to mention, and that is, I think you said we're going to be talking about this anyway. It says on the liberal.ie, that's an online forum, the king is dead, long live the king. Irish water boss John Tierney set to retire. Not going to read the article, not really that interested in John Tierney, but I just wonder, is John Tierney actually retiring? And if he is, no doubt he's going to get a big pension when he does, or is he getting kicked out? Maybe he had some targets to reach, and maybe he hasn't reached those targets, or maybe they just need a scapegoat to boot off. And maybe John Tierney is the man. So we'll see what happens, but I'm sure he'll go. A nice big pension. There'll be some other gob. I can't say the word. Gob Daw, there we go. Gob Sheen to take his place. So we'll watch out for that one. What else we got? Gardaí, this is one that was up on Facebook there today. Gardaí cannot enter private dwellings for forced deportations. That was a judgment that was actually given by the High Court very, very recently, and we probably hear more about it. But basically, it is what it says on the tin. Gardaí, if you're being deported, they cannot enter your house or your dwelling. Sorry, your dwelling. And maybe, as Vin said on PIR on the Facebook post, maybe they're starting to realise that there is a constitution and we have to abide by the constitution. So that, I mean, obviously by that logic, it would also mean that if they were to, I don't know, evictions maybe if you were, there was an eviction or something, and you say, I'm sorry, this is my private dwelling, I don't give consent. Maybe it would work in that as well. So we'll see what happens on that in the coming days. Again, this report, it's on the Irish Times website. I will actually stick it up there in the chat for anyone who is interested. What else? Is there anything else? Yeah, there's something else that we've seen there today. Both of us were just chatting about it before we come on live. Silent rooftop wind turbines could generate half a household's energy needs. That's lovely little turbines that they look like pieces of art. They're not these big monstrosities that you see in fields all across the country. They're nice little pieces of art. That's all I can call them. They actually look very artistic, and it's saying that they could possibly generate half of your household's electricity requirements. So I'm guessing if you have one, it'll generate half. So maybe you need two. But yeah, nice little jokes anyway, and look forward to seeing if they progress. They have been going since 2012, from what I've seen. Again, I'll post that link up on the chat there as well for anyone who might be interested in seeing it. Outside of that, nothing more up on my agenda. How's your week?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Again, on the free energy side, we know that Kesh has released his MadGrab device. We said it last week. So if anybody actually knows anybody that bought one or is using one successfully, get them to contact us if you can. We'd be happy to have them on to talk about their experience and how they set it up. So it'd be pretty good if you could do that. Now, like you, Steve, I come across that story about John Tierney stepping down from Irish Water, and also what they were saying is that they're going to rebrand Irish Water.
Really?
Yeah. That's like trying to rebrand the Titanic or something. It's I don't know. But rebranding, look, we all know what the story is.
Yeah. There's going to be rebranded as British Water.
Yeah, British Water, or Icke Water. That's what it'll be called.
Icke Water.
Icke Water, or something like that. Anyway, so it's not going to work, guys. At the end of the day, it's not going to work. And plus the property charge or property tax, whatever you want to call it. There's a good article on the DDI website all about the case down in Kerry, I think. The chap who didn't go to court over there was because it said it was unconstitutional. So if you want to go over and check out about the property charge in that case, it's over on the DDI website. Do a search for it over there. I'm sure you'll find it as well. And one last thing before we bring Aidan in is we got a notification that our OYM T-shirts will be in this week, probably Monday, Tuesday. And we'll have medium, large and extra large. So if you fancy being part of the elite and have all the benefits that come with wearing an OEM T-shirt, it'll do your love life, be fantastic.
Well, that's what Chris said to us. Chris from the OEM chat room. He said that whenever he wore his, it was like a babe magnet. He just attracted the ladies.
Yeah, definitely. See, there you go. And we'd hate to, be pushing PR and marketing for the T-shirt, We want to keep it real, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So the T-shirts be in this week. Fingers crossed. Okay, now we're going to bring our guest in. Now, we've had Aidan on the show before, and as I say, he's an Irish comedian, a good guy, great laugh, loads of experiences in his life. And what Aidan has decided to do is put it in a book form and put all his experiences down in the book. And the book is called Dear Plonker. And I have to say, Aidan did send that over to me there during the week, and I was having a read. Well, I'm going to bring Aidan in first, and we'll have a chat with him then. Good evening, Aidan. How are you doing?
Good evening. I am doing great. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks a lot for coming on. Now, the Dear Plonker, right? You sent it over to me, and it's a book packed full of information and situations that you've been through and solutions that you've gone through as well. Now, here's the thing, Aidan. I was going to do some speed reading with the book, all right? But I actually started getting into it, and I found it entertaining and funny with solutions as well. So hence why I never got to finish the book, because I was actually enjoying it too much.
Don't give me your lame ass excuses.
Right?
I was going to buy one of your T-shirts. Now you can stick it to your Well, I like your ads with the T-shirts, by the way. You can be one of the elite. Open your mind. Here, you too can be part of the Illuminati.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Well, it's Air Illuminati. There you go. You can be part of Air Illuminati, not all them kind of rich millionaires. You don't want to be with them. You want to be with us. But I will say...
Well, let's come back to that later on, because I have a theory on that. We'll come back to that later.
Brilliant. We'll have a chat about that. But I will say, for anybody who wants a good laugh, great information and solutions, and your take on the experiences that you went through, I completely recommend the book, because I just enjoyed it. I had to stop. I started off doing the speed reading, and I had to slow down because I was enjoying it too much. And you have your spin and your take on it, and I have to say, well done, congratulations on it, and I hope it's flying off the shelf, because you deserve it.
Thanks. I don't know if it's flying off the shelf, but it's nearly broken even, and once it breaks even, I'm pretty happy. I think there's another 30 books to go, and then all the costs are covered, and then after that, I'll probably release an online version, but that would probably take me months.
Yeah, no.
That's the game plan.
No, well, it's brilliant. Again, it's all about your experiences with the likes of the VHI and Meteor and credit cards and how you dealt with it and different scenarios. Now, as you said yourself, when you first started off, and like a lot of people, when you start to wake up to this and the letters come in and we want to write the letters and make it all look legal and factual, and you want to, say, well, I know this and I know that and I know this. And you kind of said, well, yeah, I started off with the idea, but then again, I just realised, you know what, they're all human and they're all doing a job, and maybe they're doing a job that they don't like. So let's have a bit of humour at the same time. And it's because of that approach that you've actually been very successful with it.
Well, there's a combination of things in there. I mean, they're all different. What I've done is I've taken a collection of different events that I've had with corporations, and I've taken them on. And I've tried to use full fact, full honour, full truth in my letters. And, of course, I can only win if I can stand and hold my own in court, because ultimately I could be taken to court. And nobody wants to have to go to court and represent themselves if they think they're going to lose. So ultimately I put myself in a position where I would win. So we'd say I took on the credit card, I took on debt collectors, insurance companies, e-flow, solicitors, TV license, and so on. And each is a different chapter, and I show the letters that I sent, the letters that they responded, and how I beat them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's a unique approach, because in all the kind of years we've been involved, we've always kind of got the letters in the templates, and you look at what's written and you use the legalese text going back to these entities and corporations. But as I say, your approach is quite unique, because you kind of, with love, Aidan or King Aidan and stuff like that. And I'm sure they're kind of going, who did this guy think he is? But with that sense of humour, you break down the barrier.
Well, I see it like, I've become friends with one of the debt collectors. One of the debt collectors sent me letters I became friends with. There's a few examples in the book how I turn an enemy into a friend. When I say enemy, I mean originally when I get that letter, it can be scary. They can use their words to intimidate me, to create fear, and often my fear turns into anger. So when I get a letter and I see it signed by, John Doe, I'm like, oh, fuck John Doe, or, I'm angry with this guy. But in reality, if that human being exists, because not always the signature at the end is a real person as far as I can see, but sometimes if they do exist, they don't have no animosity towards you, and probably they'd laugh at the same things you'd laugh at, and they'd cry at the same things you'd cry at. So I broke down a process, turning an enemy into a friend, where first they'll ridicule you, they'll think you're wrong. Who do you know? We've got solicitors, we've got lawyers, we're important, we're a huge company. Who are you? You're a nobody. And they'll mock you, they'll think nothing of you. But soon, if you hold the truth long enough for them to see, they'll start to see it. And instead of, treating you with disrespect, instead they'll start to begrudgingly accept there may be a tiny possibility that there's some truth in what you say.
Mm.
And if you continue to hold the truth up long enough, even longer, then they'll see, oh my God, this person's right. They're completely right. We've written these letters. They've responded. This guy could sue me. We could get sued. We're negligent. We're in breach of duty, breach of contract, breach of fiduciary responsibilities. Eventually, when they see that, then they'll fear you.
Yeah.
And if in the last phase is if you don't come after them, because you don't have any animosity towards these people. They're just human beings. And all you're doing is holding the truth long enough for them to see it and nothing more, and having fun and not getting too tied up in a silly little game that you can never really win because it's their rules. But you're not really acting to their nonsense. Then they'll start to love you because they'll see that they were playing the game from the wrong angle originally, and they'll respect you, and in fact they'll even start to work for you in some ways. They'll start to want to help you. They'll go out of their way to help you.
Mm. Well,
that is how you turn an enemy into a friend. It's all in Chapter 7, how I beat the VHI when they wouldn't pay for my uncle's. He was with them for 50 years. They wouldn't pay he had a heart attack and they wouldn't pay the money, which I documented, proved that they did have to pay. And then after about, I think it was a month of hard work, they did pay. They apologized, and ultimately then they paid for my flight and my phone calls, and they were in debt to me, and they acknowledged it. But the women on the phone said, Aidan, if we were ever sick in hospital, if we were, the girls here, off the record, Aidan, if any of us were sick, we'd like you to represent us.
Brilliant. And have you actually been in court at all? Have you been up in front of a registrar or a judge?
No, I've gone in to watch my friends and so on. I haven't. It's something that I wouldn't particularly like to have to do. I would do everything I could to not do it, but if I did have to do it, so be it. And if I lose and so on, and they, whatever they do, they do. But what's most important for me is that I stand by my truth, regardless of how I'm treated, or if they, want to send me into a cell or they want to intimidate me or whatever. That's their business. My business is to standing by the truth and doing what's right for me, and standing by that best I can. So I avoid court if possible, but ultimately if I have to go, I have to go. So be it.
It is amazing, though, when you talk to people and you point out certain things. Let's take, for example, if they phone you, if a bank phones you on your house phone, give us your take on that and how you woke up to that and how you reverse that. Because there's going to be people tuning in who probably haven't heard your last show with us, or maybe haven't heard of you or whatever. So, we might be going over a little bit of old ground, but I still think it's good and educational. So let's talk about the phone technique and how you reverse that.
Let's go back a few years. I used to get phone calls, and it's very easy for me to dismiss this now because it's something in the past for me.
Yeah.
But it is terrifying to have somebody ring you and say, I'm ringing about your debt. And when you believe that you are in debt and you don't have the money, you don't have the ability to pay, it can be terrifying. And and we can back that up, we can document that, because there's people in every town in our country who've taken their own lives because of the fear and the helplessness that was forced upon them by corporations such as the banks in this country. So I don't want to belittle that in any way.
Yeah. No, of course not.
But for me, I was scared at one stage, and my fear turned into anger because I didn't like the helplessness. So fear can go either way. It can go probably many ways. But for me, I see it as you can go from fear to apathy, helplessness, not sure what to do, or it can go to anger, like possibly, say, Malcolm X or someone like that. And you can utilize that anger as an energy, as a force, and you can force that towards whatever it is that you need to do. And for me, it was like to learn everything I needed to learn. I gave up alcohol. I got up early in the mornings. I studied. And ultimately, I got to the stage where before I learned everything, when I got the phone calls, sometimes I'd react very badly. With anger, I'd start shouting, who the hell are you? I'm going to try and leave out the F word here. How dare you effing ring my effing phone and so on. And I remember losing it so bad once that there was somebody with me, and the look that they gave me made me realize that's not really the way to treat human beings, and I need to calm down. So I did. I learned what I was doing, and then I started to try and have fun with the people who rang me. Say, hey, how's it going? Okay, let me try and explain my method. What I would try and do is I'd ask them a question to take them out of their world. What I mean by that is they have a set procedure that they've got to get my name, my address, my phone number. They've got to be able to put me in this little box. So instead of playing the game their way, because I can't win with their game, I try and take them into my world. And my world is going to be a world of fun and playfulness. So what I want them is to tell me interesting things about them. So if they need information from me, I need information from them. So their name, their address, what they want for Christmas. What did you want to be when you were a child, when you grew up? And they won't want to answer these questions. But if you hold on to that and I go, look, I'm really serious. If you're ringing me now and I only accept phone calls from friends, are you my friend? Make them answer that. Do you love me? Do you love me? And if they don't say that they love you, why would you spend your time talking to a stranger on the phone? Look, you borrowed money, did I? That's a very serious claim. What do you want for Christmas this year? And they say, look, we need you to answer the questions, Mr. Killian. And I go, whoa, that's a very serious claim. You're claiming on Mr. Killian. Would you document that and go to court and accept the consequences of perjury? You know what? Don't answer that question, because I can't continue this call until you answer me this question. What do you want for Christmas? But if you hold on to one question and get them to do it, you'll have a lot of fun. And it doesn't make you invincible, but ultimately they'll give up. They'll give up because they'll see that you're not scared anymore. Do not give them information. Do not give them your name. Do not give them your address. Do not give any stranger who does not care about you and is not willing to say that they love you on the phone any information about you, because whatever you say can and may be used against you in a court of law.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously you did this with one girl, and I think you were asking what underwear she had on.
Oh, right, there's a show, Take the Red Pill, is a show that I made for, it's a few years old, 2012 I think it is, but the whole show is on YouTube, and you can watch it for free. The first 16 minutes are just normal kind of cock jokes, but after that it goes really into it, and there's some quite deep levels of the Matrix that I go through, so it's really worth watching. Take the Red Pill, Aiden Killian on YouTube. It's there for free. If you enjoy it, make a comment, give it a like, tell me that you love me.
Excellent stuff, excellent stuff. And of course, this kind of empowered you after learning the system. Obviously, you might have felt hopeless at the start, as we all do when we think there's nothing we can do about this. And this is why people feel kind of helpless, because they think they can't do anything, but in reality they can do a hell of a lot. They just need to go out and put the feelers out and speak to people and find out about what's going on. And even now, I know I have family members, and we do talk about this. And we look at the things that we're all kind of programmed to accept, and we're going, hang on a minute, we don't have to accept this. We are allowed to ask questions, and we are allowed to turn around and say, well, hang on, you're ringing my phone, and that's my phone, so I'm going to call the shots here, not you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really essential.
And of course,
it's really essential to have some basic. Look, it's like boundaries. I'm not a father. I don't have children, but I'm sure there's some mothers and fathers out there, and it's about creating, set boundaries. There's some things that you can't have your child do. You can't stick your finger in the juicer. You can't walk in front of a car. You've got to have clear set boundaries, and if you refuse to have those in your relationships, you're going to have problems. And if you don't create them with relationships from the people who are ringing your phone, you're going to have problems, because silence is acquiescence in a court of law. If you don't say anything, it's allowed. It's like if you're out with somebody that you want to kiss, and you say to them, look them in the eyes, and goes, I'm going to kiss you now, and you move slowly forward, and you kiss them, well, that's expected. Now, if they say, no, you can't do that, they've made a clear boundary, a clear set boundary. So if they say, hey, we're going to come over to your house and take your stuff, you need to document that, register a letter and go, no, I do not consent to that. And I'll hold you personally responsible inside and outside of court if you touch any of my property, including my body.
Yeah, well, we had Dr. Rima on a couple of weeks ago, and she said that them words, I do not consent, are very, very powerful. And I also have a video, there's a video posted up on the OYM Facebook page of a chap. He had the Black Laws Dictionary, the 4th pocketbook edition, and he talks about the capitalization of your name, and then the social contract.
Oh, it goes back to slavery, Roman times, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I'm asking the question, where's the social contract I signed? What social contract? So, and this is kind of my thinking, and I'm just kind of breaking it down into a very simplistic form to say, these laws that you're saying apparently apply to me, these acts and statutes, when did I actually agree to this? When did I consent? Because if I knew that these laws were going to harm me or affect me in some way, there's no way I would have consented. So that means that I actually signed or agreed to this unknowingly, which is fraud, and which is, it's null and void as a contract, because it wasn't fully transparent. Now, I'm sure you've looked up into this, and you've come across contracts like that as well.
I've come across loads of contracts, and it became confusing what's going on, and I don't ever expect who's that wonderful woman in America, Mary
Croft.
Mary
Elizabeth Croft.
She's a very powerful woman. She's written a lot about it. I think she really does understand it all. That's my guess. But I've sort of accepted that I may never understand all this whole matrix. But I got to the stage where me, in my room, which I'm in now, I basically undid every contract that anybody in the whole world thinks they have with me. I made my new contract. My contract is that I forgive all beings, including myself, for anything that's offended anyone. And if they don't forgive me, well, that's their business. And my second contract is, I only contract to do good for the highest good in the world, whatever that may be. That's my new contract. So if anyone else thinks they've got a contract about money or stuff, that's got nothing to do with me anymore, unless it's involved in my my contract with myself, because that's way more important. Because all that stuff is just tricks. It's just spellings and spells and ideas and commerce, and it's just trickery, sneaky trickery that's meant to take the wealth of the masses, put it in the hands of the few, and keep us basically bonded and enslaved, so we're running around in circles, never realizing who we truly are. Ta-da!
Yeah, exactly. And this is the whole thing. So I'm like you. I'm trying to... It's very hard to understand this legalese or this language that you speak and all the kind of legal mumbo-jumbo that goes with it. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm just going back to basics and go, hang on a minute. Right. Okay, so we are human beings, flesh and blood. And there's obviously some social contract that says when I was born, I agreed to in some way. And it looks like to me that that's the birth cert. And that's like that's a bond, or short for bondage, that's sold to the markets when the government want to do it. So they're selling my future earnings. And I didn't agree to this contract. So why am in, you know, if it went to court, why am I in this court? You know, and these are the questions kind of I'd be asking. Very simplistic stuff, but I'd quote the law books and go, well, this is what the law book says, and I don't know whether a judge would actually appreciate that or whether he might frown on it, but at the end of the day, if I'm a lay litigant, I can only say what I know, you know, to be true.
Yeah, I know, but I know at the same time you see these guys running in their straw hats going, you know, I'm not the name, and ultimately they get done for contempt. So unless you know what you're talking about, unless you've really put in your due diligence, your hard work, probably the court's going to roll over you, mock you, and just ridicule you and take your stuff. Yeah. So, however, that doesn't mean that you'll have any less honour. You'll probably have more honour.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about being a sovereign person. I'm not going in with the kind of straw hat idea. I'd be just pointing out things that I come across in my study, and I'd kind of go, well, this is what your law says, so what does this mean? You know, at the end of the day, you don't get locked up for asking questions.
Yeah, well, that'd be good. In the district court, I can't see him taking too much attention to you, but I suppose you can just go through. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Good luck at that. I try and avoid courts best I can. Thanks very much. I just deal with the letters that get sent to me, and I really, really like not to have to go to court because that would take me loads of time to study. I'd have to go and work out how to beat them.
Well, the whole idea at the end of the day is you're going to court because 2 people or 3 people, whatever, are disagreeing on something, and you go to court to try and resolve it. Now, let's take example your Meteor. The solution that you came up with Meteor and them actually taking up your time. Let's talk about that as an example of you dealing with that.
Meteor is a phone company, as you well know, and they sent me a text message advertising a new product. I don't remember what the product was, and I don't care, but I do care that they stole my time. They sent me a text message, which I do not consent to, for them to advertise. I never signed up for asking to be advertised to without my consent. I don't want them making money from me without me getting some of that, compensation, right? So if they were to pay me money for every text that they sent me, I would consider that. However, if I ignore it, like most people do, I'm agreeing. It's acquiescence. Silence is acquiescence. It's like that person. I'm going to kiss you now. If they don't move away or say no, well, basically they're agreeing. And I know that can be argued, but that's the way it is in the court of law. Silence is acquiescence. So I made it crystal clear. I do not consent to this. You're in breach of contract, breach of duty. You've shown disrespect for my time, and I'm not going to pay you the bill. They didn't agree with that offer of mine. And I said, look, I'm not interested in your opinion. I'm interested in the fact I will not pay you this bill. And if you cut me off, I will hold you responsible in the court of law. They did agree. They did agree then, and then what happened was I said, thank you for accepting. The exact words are in the book in chapter 1 or 2. Yeah. But I basically said something like, thank you for accepting the error of your ways. Thank you for accepting financial and equitable responsibility for your errors. If you do this again, I will bill you €100 per text. That's really interesting. If you send me an unwarranted text message that I have not consented to, I will bill you €100 per text. They say no, they don't agree. Again, I say I'm not interested in your opinion. I'm interested in the fact I will send you a bill. If you refuse to pay your bills, you can deal with it in a court of law. So all my letters and so on are in there, and I sent it, and ultimately they sent debt collectors after me. I ridiculed the debt collectors with all due respect that they deserve or don't deserve. I offered to meet them on the Sugarloaf. They didn't turn up. I befriended one of the debt collectors. I sent her thumbtacks and told her to put, requested that she put the thumbtacks under Hugh J. Ward's seat so he'd sit on them and get a sore bottom. But she didn't do that for me. However, I was very amused at the idea. And then ultimately, Meteor did agree. They did pay me they sent me 3 texts, so they pay me my €300. But how I did that is all documented in the book. And anybody can do it. But you know what, Steve Allen, people don't have the time. People go, I couldn't be bothered. Why don't you just pay the €30? But I do have the time. What I mean by that is I'll make the time. I'm a very busy human being. I use my time well. But for me, it's essential. It's like a sovereign duty. This company isn't just stealing money from me. It's more than that, right? It's like so disrespectful for humanity. It's just that they think that we're all just commercial customers that can be advertised to at their whim. And I think if enough people just go, no, I do not consent, well, then this whole game is over. I don't blame the companies. I don't blame the government. I don't blame the police. I blame us because enough people haven't stood up and said, no, we roll over back. And I say willing. We choose to be slaves. We want to be slaves. We want to be governed. They say everybody's going to govern themselves. One way or the other, you govern yourself or somebody's going to govern you for you. But you're going to be governed one way or the other. And I say that people are afraid to rise up. They're afraid to stand up for themselves. They're afraid to deal with a letter. They're afraid to go to court. They're afraid to stand up to a guard. I mean, if you saw a guard beating up a teenager, would you stop him? If you saw a guard trying to rape a human being, would you stop him? Or would you look at the uniform and say, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it? And people say they would, but if you can't stand up for yourself for basic stuff, how do you expect to stand up for people when it comes down to it?
No, that's fair. That is fair comment. We have a couple of questions coming in. I'll just say again, for as you said there, Aidan, silence is acquiescence. So at the end of the day, we had Marcus Piccione on our show as well, who wrote the book, How the Banks Are Screwing You. And basically, he was saying the line of communication, it's very important that, no argument has been resolved by ignoring each other. So if you get into a line of communication and you say, I do not consent, and the answer is no, then you have to do that, because otherwise the answer is going to be yes. And then, there's only one person to blame, and that's yourself, because you have to tell them no, because they think the answer is yes. But we have a couple of questions coming in. I have one here before I go over to Steve. We have a lady up in Donegal called Lorraine, and she said, can you please ask Aidan if he is ever going to do any gigs up north?
I'm doing one in Belfast. I'm doing one in Belfast on December 10th in a place called the Sunflower. It's a human rights type festival. I did one in Ballybuffet in Jackson's Hotel about 6 months ago, which was a lot of fun. And I haven't got any other up north. But if you arrange it for me, if you arrange a room with a light on my face and a microphone, I will be there. You just get some people in there. I will turn up and do the gig. I love when random people, strangers. In fact, I just did a gig on Friday. Somebody asked me to do a fundraiser for a Steiner school, and I believe in that cause. I love how they use art and get the kids working and moving their body and dancing, and it's not all just based on getting results and tests. So I really believed in that, and I did a gig for them in County Clare. Drove all the way down to County Clare. My brother and a poet called Dave Rock came with me. And we went down, I did the gig, and they raised just over €1,000, and I was proud and happy to be part of that. So if you go, oh yeah, what about you arrange something in Donegal where those guys do that walk every week? You know the way they do the walk against the water charges, the household charges, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you arrange something like that, that we could do it after the walk. I'd come down and go on the walk on the march, and then we could do a gig, and we could use the money, give the money to a local cause, whatever's most needed in the area. Whatever the government is neglecting most, like a hospice or some dying poor children, something that's good for the local community, I'd be happy and delighted to support. So that's your cause, Maureen, and I'll be there.
Great stuff. All right, Maureen, there you go. You have your task to do there. Right, Steve. Steve has a few questions for you.
Yeah, first thing that I wanted to say was just
Steve, whatever the question, the answer is love.
Well, okay. Well, what can we say? You threw me off there now. Why did you do that? Sorry. Why did you do that? Yes, we love you, Aidan. We love you. when you spoke about Meteor, and I just want to set the kind of get everything straight in my mind, because I'm with Vodafone, not for any particular reason, it just kind of happened that way, you know. And every so often I get texts off them offering me new packages and new deals to go on to. Is that what you got from Meteor? Was it? I'm guessing it's from a provider who you're already with.
Yeah, it was something like that. I think they might have done it once, and I gave them a warning and informed them in writing by an email, or I wrote them a letter, and I don't remember. And then I said, you know, very politely, you know, I don't consent to being advertised. Don't do that again. There's also a box. If you've ticked one of their boxes to say that they can contact you about products, well, then you've chosen that.
Yeah, so, but I'm guessing if you have chosen that, you can obviously go in and unselect or deselect
just contact them, put it in writing and say, nah, I don't consent to that anymore. And then if they do it again, then you just write your terms. For me, €100 per text, that was my price, but maybe you're worth more than me. You might want to charge them $200 a text.
No, I'd have to charge them less, so I'm not worth as much as you. Although they say I'm worth me weight in gold, so yeah, I mean that'll be a lot of gold. What have we got? We have a question from Graham. Graham says, if Aidan was asked to perform at the Royal Variety Show in London in front of the German High Priestess of Westminster, would he attend?
Oh, cool. Well, I don't know who she is, but this sounds, the German High Priestess. Is there really such a thing? Is she some sort of Illuminati queen? Is she hanging out with the dodgy mayor in the centre of you know what? I'd do it, and I'll tell you why I'd do it, because I'd find out who they are, what they represent, and then I'd go and do a gig accordingly. And ultimately, I do something that resonates with their soul and make the world a better place. That, or else they just sacrifice me to their gods, and that'd be the end of me. Except that I don't believe in death, so I'd be fine anyway.
Okay, right. So you'll turn up if they send you the invitation. Obviously, if they pay for your airfare as well, you'll go. Anyway, Chris Chris just sent in a comment. He said he was getting nonsense letters from solicitors. He sent them an invoice for $4,000 each time he had to reply. And he says they stopped writing to me, and in a phone conversation months later, they confirmed they owe it to me. I never got it, but it shut them up. He says.
See, that's great. That's exactly it. You're getting these letters and you reach a point where you go, I just don't want this anymore. So you look into it and you just go, right, I'll just send the same nonsense back to them. And I think a lot of these solicitors aren't even really solicitors. They're probably minimum wage people or close to working in an office that are signing off from a solicitor firm. So there might be like one solicitor there. I mean, J. Ward, they on their website, they said 100 years of legal experience, and he'd over 25, which is in America, and then there was 30-something employees. So they had an average of about 1.8 years each between them, which is a huge rotation of staff. It means people are coming in and out. And the person I met had no legal experience whatsoever, and God bless her, she barely had enough to feed her family. So I'm not convinced that these are solicitors. I'm not convinced that they have your best interest in heart. I think they're just trying to get money. And I often think that they bought the debt for free. They bought the debt for cheap. And one of my friends said to me, he said, look, Aidan, your letters are rubbish and they're not taken seriously in the legal world. But they look at it and they go, this is going to be so much hassle that they take my letter and they put it to the bottom of the queue. And then they go and deal with some other sucker. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that I've got a whole book of victories that I've won time and time again. Like eFlow tried to charge me, and I paid. The solicitors came after me, and you know what I did? I paid them with a DVD. I sent them my DVD, and I said, if you don't send it back within 7 days, this is accepted as payment. And they didn't send it back. I said, thank you for accepting my. And you know what? My comedy DVD is worth a lot more than their silly €150 fine or whatever it is. They're makey-uppy charges, as I call them.
Did they send you? Did they correspond with you after that?
You know, I've got 2 whole chapters. The first one, I had like loads of correspondence with them, and I was having a lot of fun with them. The solicitor guy, I forget his name, Rhubarb, something like Rhubarb. I forget them. Anyway, the solicitors for eFlow, they're the same people. They didn't contact me after that, but I have to admit, fair play to the man, because he responded to my letter with a lot of humour. Like, he really acknowledged, because I invited to meet him in a pub I noticed that his office was down past Tralee, past Dingle, right down in the furthest part of Kerry, away from Dublin. That's where his office is. So I responded to him. I said, look, I see that you're really far away. I'm a suspicious man. I'm cynical. I don't always trust everything I see. And part of me thinks that the reason you're down there is because you don't want to be near the people that you're sending fines to in County Dublin who use the M50. So I'm going to make life easy for you. I'll come down and visit you. I'll see you. And then I picked a local pub. It just so happened my friend was down there. I was going to visit my friend anyway. I say, I'll see you there on Thursday between the hours of 8 and 10. And if you're not there, you're obviously not taking this matter seriously, and this matter is finished with. So I went down to the pub, took a picture there with the, what's the name of the pub? You might know it. McCarthy's, is it? One of the ones in Dingle anyway. And I took a picture, and then I sent it to him, you know, and I had 2 pints. One of them was my pint, and the other one was for him, right? And I was like, where are you, man? You know, and I sent him the picture. I was like, look, you didn't turn up, man. You're not taking this seriously. And anyway, ultimately the imagined debt disappeared, or whatever you want to call it, the make-you-uppy fine. I mean, I don't really believe it, because there's a law that says you don't have to pay any fines unless proven in a court of law. I mean, you can't just make up a fine. I can't just tell Meteor, I'm going to fine you £10 billion if you don't ring me today. Oh, they didn't ring me today, they owe me $10 billion. So you can't really do that, like.
That's pretty.
You know what I mean? They can't just go, right, you owe me £1 million now because you didn't pay the e-flow in 24 hours. That's not reasonable. That's not rational. Like human beings, that's just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? If there's somebody there and they have an e-flow fine and it was €3 or $3.10 or whatever it is, I think it's $3.10, and you don't pay that, and now it's like €12 or €40 or €150 or whatever the hell it's gone to, just pay them the original amount. I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling everybody to pay it, but if you just want it all, if it's stressing you out and you don't want to have to deal with it, just send them the original amount, document it, like get a postal check or something, send it to them, and then if they send it back, they've refused your offer.
Yeah.
And if they don't, well, you know, whatever, it's most likely going to end it for you.
Well, when you speak about e-flow, it's funny because my wife used the M50 there a couple of weeks back, and about 2 days after she used it, she says to me, "Oh, I'm after forgetting to pay," and I said, "Well, don't pay." And she said, "No, it's only €3. I'll pay it." But of course, she said, "Now I'm going to owe them a penalty as well. What'll I do?" And I said, "Well, if you want to pay them, just go onto the website." And I know when you go on, you have 2 choices. You can pay or you can pay a penalty. I said, just pay. Pay your €3.10, whatever the amount was. And she said, yeah, but I only had 24 hours to pay it, and it's now like 72 hours later. I said, it doesn't matter. Just pay the amount anyway. And she paid she paid the amount.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because she only made one journey, so she paid for the one journey. And guess what? Nothing happened. There was no letters and no correspondence because, well, obviously they got paid, and it was kind of end of story. And if they had to come after at that point in time, well, the matter was kind of seen as closed because they had been paid.
Like that's like it's a short-term answer, and I think it works. If people are stressed, they need to get rid of their stress.
Yeah.
We can't live in a world where people are stressed, angry, and afraid. So yes, do that. But if we really want to fix the problem, what we need is all your listeners. Now we need about 100 of us, or 20 of us anyway. We need to get in our cars and we go to the M50 every day, and we go through it really, really slowly, block up the entire M50, and we all refuse to pay it. We put signs and we keep doing it, and we get arrested probably for whatever. They'll make something up, and then the next 20 people do it, and the next until nobody uses the M50 anymore, and it causes chaos for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they go, look, to hell with this, and then which is a French company. e-flow is owned by a French company, Sanef. I think it's Sanef, or I don't know how to pronounce it. SANEF. It's in my book. Buy my book, dearplonker.com. Anyway, you don't have to. That's what we need to do. We need to block it up, not pay it, and end this nonsense, because that road has been paid for by the people a long, long time ago. So we're like suckers. We're embarrassing ourselves. I bet you there's people from other countries who come here and just shake their head, like the Greeks. They probably just shake their heads in disgust at us. We're so obedient. Well,
this is it. This is what's happening, and hopefully people are beginning to wake up now. Something I've heard. I want to quickly talk about deducing, but something I heard from a high court barrister is that when you get to a toll road, if there's 6 or more cars behind you, they're legally obliged to open up the toll. Now, this High Court barrister, this is going back a couple of years, he said he actually didn't like the toll road, so he would purposely just park there. Now, he could flash his card, because I'm sure he had a little ID saying who he was, and they would open up the toll. But he said that legally, after 6 cars, they legally have to open up the toll. So just, is that true? I don't know. I'm just going by what he said. Okay, so just something to let our listeners know. Now, before we let you go, Aidan, and get all your details, I just want to spend a few minutes on what you're doing regarding your health and juicing. Tell us what you're doing with that.
I was away in Greece doing yoga and Pilates and hanging out on the beach, working in a community centre. It cost €550 a month, and what I did is some laundry and dishes and basic gardening work and that for the month, and it was great. But I had some family business to take care of because we had some family drama. So I came home to help my family sort it out. But I asked myself, how can I turn this into a good thing? If I'm going to miss my holidays because of this, how can I make it a good thing? So I said, you know what? I'm going to do a 40-day detox. So that means for me, no alcohol, no sugar, no caffeine, no tobacco. And I do exercise, and I do a lot of other things as well that are good for me. So I started the first 3 days with juicing only. So my body was craving everything. I was hungry. I wanted sugar. I wanted a beer. I wanted chocolate. I wanted bread. But it gets confused. So ultimately, you're just hungry. And then after those 3 days, that was the hardest. There was toxins removing. I was in a little bit of pain, and I had sore muscles, and I was tired and cranky. But after that, it became really easy. So I'm like I'm basically a vegan for the 40 days who doesn't have any toxins. And I have more energy. I am getting more work done. And I'm enjoying life, but there are moments that are really challenging. Like tonight, I'm meeting Ronan O'Shnoda from Keela. And he's doing a bit of a trad thing in Fleet Street somewhere, and he's invited me out. And there's nothing more than I'd like now to have a few pints of Guinness and a few Rowley cigarettes and have a chat with him, because I think he's one of the soul warrior of this country. He comes from the Cuchullin's day or something, in my opinion. So, but anyway, we'll see. Maybe I can hold out. I can hold out and finish the 40 days.
Try and finish the 40 days. It'd be good to hear how you get on with that.
Maybe I can have a day off. Can I have a day off?
Well, I don't know. I think, that's the thing with having kind of willpower.
Well, hang on. They say even if you're to be believed, even God had a day off.
Yeah, he had Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Well, it's funny because my mate actually said, my mate Andy, who's doing it with me, he broke down on day 4. He started just before me. He broke Halloween. But he gave himself Halloween off. All he did is have 2 pints, and now he's back on it.
That's it.
So far I've had the willpower, and I've got over it. Tonight I'm not really having cravings, but I am tempted just because it's my mate Ronan, and then go back on it. But I'll make that decision later on. And you know what? Your viewers, your listeners will never know.
I'm sure there's a book in there. I mean, when you have this done, do you reckon there might be a book in there somewhere?
I don't know. A lot of people. It's amazing because I put it up on Facebook that I was doing it, and 6 other people decided to do it with me. 6 other people. I've got like 2 other people. They're doing great. We talk once a week, and like a little motivator thing. Then my mate Andy, he's a comedian, and Andrew Gilmore. He wouldn't be well known on the circuit, but goddamn, he's brilliant. He's a proper drinker, right? And he's off the drink and the cigarettes, and he probably smokes 30 a day normally. Who else is doing? I met another comedian there, who I'd normally have a drink with. Met him for green tea. So it's kind of amazing if you do something positive. It inspires other people. So now they're the ones carrying me. There's a guy in Barcelona doing it with me.
That's excellent. I mean, it's great, yeah. And this the whole thing. It's that to spread that energy. I mean, if you want to call it love energy, for want of another name, but basically if you can spread that and have that, positivity and work together as a group to kind of support each other, well then a lot can be done.
Yeah, I think absolutely. If there's a few, even 3 people, would you put your minds, like you guys, the 2 of you guys together, you're putting yourselves, your minds together, coming up with this show. Look at all the people you've interviewed. Look at all the things you've learned. It really is quite amazing when a few people come together, right?
It's amazing. I mean, our experience over 5+ years, running OYM and running the show, the knowledge that we've gained from speaking to people, I mean, we're all learning and we'll keep learning till we die, but the whole thing is what we say to people is you have to have a fluid belief system. If your glass is full and you can't open your mind to new information, then that's as far as you're going to learn. You're not going to learn anymore. You have to be able to tip some out to allow more information in. And a lot of people, yeah.
So Alzheimer's is good.
Yeah, well, in certain situations there is. Right, Aidan, we've reached that time, but again, we want you to give your book a plug. I will say to people that I recommend buying Aidan's book, because if you do like the whole legal thing and about, learning about how Aidan dealt with it in a humorous way, but solutions in the book and his approach to it, I do recommend going over to, well, we're going to get all the details of Aidan, where you can go over and buy the book. And because I'm enjoying the read, I haven't finished yet, but I am enjoying the read. I slowed down, as I said at the start of the show. I was going to do a bit of speed reading, but I start getting into it and I start enjoying it, and I just wanted to enjoy it rather than just kind of absorb it, but in a kind of speed reading way. I wasn't really going to go in, and I wanted it to go in, so I just slowed down. And I was just entertained by your writing and your approach. So well done to the book for doing the book. I mean, very good. I have to say, well done for doing it.
Thanks. Well, I got help from the Common Law Society with the legal stuff, who've inspired me along my journey in Ireland. So those guys have been great, and they're the ones who published the book, and it can be found on www.dearplonker.com. And for now, it's not an audio, and it's not online. You can only get physical copies, so www.dearplonker.com, or if you happen to be passing Donnybrook, it's in the little shop there beside the Donnybrook Fair called Hampton Books, I think. It's in there. So that's where you can get them. And
I would recommend people getting the physical book, because it's nothing like having a cup of tea or whatever and sitting down and having to read rather than being in front of a computer screen. I personally like reading. I like to have a book that you can bring around and just read it when you have time to do it. But Aidan, thanks a lot for coming on. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your links and websites and everything else from there.
All right, nice one, Al. Take it easy. Keep opening people's mind. Keep your mind open. Keep on being happy. Be happy. Over and out. God bless. Amen.
One show at a time, Aidan. That's the way we see it. Steve.
Yeah, Aidan. Again, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. You're a great gas, as they say, and just your book. It would be fantastic if you could maybe even think about. No one else could do it. An audio book of yours. I think it would have to be you would have to do it, an audio book. But for people who don't really have time to read or don't enjoy reading, it will be very beneficial just to have an audio book as well. People who listen to go.
I'll get it done. It'll probably take me a few months because I've got a lot to do. I've just finished my show about whistleblowers, by the way, just before I go, and it's going to be released kind of soon. So if you're interested in whistleblowers, Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, if you're interested in that stuff, I did a comedy show about it. Got a lot of good press in Edinburgh Fringe. I'm going to Australia. I'm going to Glastonbury this year, but I will be just subscribe on YouTube, and I'll be releasing some videos soon. So
and have you a website out there as well, Aidan, or will it just YouTube?
aidenkillian.com, but there's not a huge amount on it. But aidenkillian.com, there will be more on it soon. I just need to get more organised.
Excellent stuff. Aidan, one last question before you go, and I'm only asking this because it was asked at the top of the hour when you come on, and again, I'd be just interested in hearing a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds on your take. But the Earth, round or flat?
It's very interesting. I'm going to go with round.
Okay.
But I am very interested in what people are saying about it, and I was reading up about it recently. It's like it'd be the biggest conspiracy of all time if the world ended up being flat. It's fascinating. I haven't found anything solid enough for me to make a go at flat, but I kind of want it to be flat. I'll tell you why. Because if it is flat, that means, and we find out for a fact that the world is flat. Can you imagine? That means everybody would have to undo everything that they've ever learned.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone is why I would love the world to be flat.
Excellent. Okay, Aidan, stay with us there. We'll go off to a musical break and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and we're back. That was a little bit of Misfit Curiosity Killed the Cat. Great information there by Aiden Killian. We're just having a quick chat with him over the break, and Yeah, I think he's going to be coming on again for a part 3. What do you think?
I think so. I think it has to be done. I want to get through the Dear Plonker book. I want to read it all. And then I think there'll be a lot more questions probably to ask Aidan. But again, I have to say that the book is interesting. It has solutions in it, and his unique way of how he dealt with the debt collectors, using a bit of love rather than attacking them.
Is it a big book?
No, it's 206 pages. It's like,
So even I might be able to read it, do you think?
Yeah, I reckon you'll find it interesting because he has a unique way. It's not kind of all legalese or jargon and stuff like that. Yeah. It's pretty straightforward, and it's comedic the way he's written it as well. So it's quite funny.
And the fact that anyone who does read it, you'll obviously be, when you're reading it, you'll hear his voice in your head reading to you, I suppose.
Probably, yeah. So you have to take that into account, yeah. Okay. Right, okay, our next guest is a lady called Lorraine Fraser-Owusu, otherwise known as Reenie. Now, Reenie and myself go back a number of years, 2001 to be exact. Now, one thing I said when we put out the information to say who's coming on the show, we've talked before about there's always, when people wake up to what's going on in their life, when they pull the curtain or you take the red pill, there's always someone, maybe there's someone in the background. In most cases, there's someone that gives you a nudge or gives you information about, the answers that you're looking for. Maybe in your subconscious mind, it's picking up, but your conscious mind can't understand it, and the jigsaw pieces need to be put together. And what Reenie did for me is basically give me a book. We were talked about it, and gave me a book to that kind of explained a lot of things and really started my process and my awakening process on this trail of finding out about the New World Order and what's going on globally and the elites and all that kind of stuff. And a few rabbit holes I went down as well. So it was very interesting, but obviously, when the penny did drop, I think there was 2 days I didn't really sleep because everything was going through my head. Now, I'm not going to blame Reenie for that because, she just gave me the book to read, and I did answer a few questions. But let's bring her in. Good evening, Reenie. How are you doing?
Hi, Ellen. Hi, Steve. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. I think that's fair to say with the introduction, because myself and yourself, you were working in the company that I joined in 2001 in London, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you in PR and marketing department?
Yes, I was one of the minions, as I recall, amongst a team of executive and directors who were dealing with PR within the biotech industry.
That's right, exactly. Now, so I joined, and I'm not. Memory doesn't serve me that well, but I know you came up and you introduced yourself, and we kind of hit it off, and we got talking to each other, and we used to go to lunch a lot, and we used to talk about a lot of things, and we had great conversations. Great open-minded conversations. Now, I'm going to give you a compliment, and I've said this to, I think when we met up with Chris, and I said it to Steve. Now, for the listeners, I don't want to be derogatory anyway to women, but to Reenie is the kind of woman that gets it from a woman's point of view and gets it from a man's point of view. Right? Now, if people don't understand what I mean by that, it's very hard to explain. I suppose maybe you can, Reenie, but we used to have some great open-minded chats about everything. And it's because Reenie could understand a man's point of view that she could give me both sides of the coin when we discussed certain things. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. You know what it is? It's just probably because I've had probably more male friends than female friends over the years. And I pride myself on being quite a good listener. So I've listened to a load of my male friends over the years talk about, things and how they feel in regards to the whole male-female situation. And so that helped me understand where they were coming from, especially, if you have a boyfriend and want that relationship to last, you need to understand what's going on in the man's head, is the way I see it. And yeah, that's why I find it easy to hang with males and just just listen to them, because we all want the same thing. At the end of the day, we all want to be happy. We want to connect, but obviously what men and what women want sometimes is completely different, because we are programmed very differently.
Yeah.
I've even discovered that now I'm a mother of a boy, that, raising boys and raising girls is two completely different things. So.
And you've got 2 kids yourself.
I have. I've got both.
Yeah.
I have a little girl and a little boy, and I remember when I had my son, he's the eldest of the 2. When he was about 1, I attended a course called Raising Boys, because it was that much of a mystery to me. Just didn't get it, but the course really opened my eyes and my mind to how the male and female brain are structured so completely different, and why people behave as differently as they do.
And we used to talk an awful lot about the psychology and what goes on in relationships, and that was I mean, they were brilliant. I had it's just a pity. I mean, I came back to Ireland, but myself and Rini are still being in touch and talking to each other, because it's great when you have somebody like that you can bounce ideas off. But the main thing, really, what happened was that I don't really remember what happened really when we were talking. And we used to go out and lunch, but one day I know you came up to me and you had David Icke's book, The Biggest Secret, and you said, have a look at that and see what you think. And I don't know what was said to get you to do that. Do you remember what was said?
Well, I think I was either in the middle of reading it or had read it, and we were quite possibly talking about management within the company and how messed up they are, how different they are to the normal working class people, and also just what was going around. I think we used to talk a lot about spiritual growth.
That's right, yeah.
And I used to read quite a lot avidly back then, and it was just a book that I found really just, life changing. So I thought, I'd share it, and that's probably why I brought it in to show you, if I remember correctly.
I do remember you did give it to me, and I did read it, and I think I had an accident with coffee, but I did go out and buy a new one. I do remember that. And basically,
I don't think I've got that book anymore. I've lent it out that many times.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because everything it talks about and everything that I'd seen at the time has come to pass. Well, although back then it was called conspiracy theory, but pretty much, near enough, quite huge chunks of it, what he said was going to happen or would be happening, has happened.
It has happened, and I think the thing was that my subconscious was picking up on everything, but my conscious wasn't getting it. And I had all these pieces of the jigsaw, and it was all mixed up. And although I could relate to certain things, there was nothing joining them together. And by you giving me that book, I went away and read the book, and then subsequently I started going and buying some of David Icke's videos. And I was watching the videos, and I got more and more into it. And then there was just one period that for 2 days, I couldn't get asleep. The penny dropped, and that was it, bang. And that kind of really was when, the curtain pulled over, and I started seeing things for what they are and reading the book, and it just opened my mind. But when you bought that book, who was around you, or who opened your mind?
If I remember correctly, quite a few of my friends had older siblings. Quite a few of them were Rastafarian, and they all talked about the system and Babylon and this, that, and to outsiders, quite often that would sound really strange or like nutty, the way they describe conspiracy theories. And I had seen a video, like a 4 or 5 part video that somebody had lent me, which was talking about things like chip and pin, which didn't exist at the time, but that it was going to come, and things like the New World Order and the Illuminati, which was quite scary viewing, if I'm honest, but it was also very enlightening. And so from there, I went on and read more, but up till that point, my journey was always more spiritual. I was always kind of wanting to find out more about the bigger picture. Why are we here? What's our purpose? All that kind of stuff, even from a very young age.
Yeah.
So I've read things like the Celestine Prophecy and, what's that book again? Sophie's World, which is quite a philosophical book. I don't know if you've read that one. Kind of brings in all the different philosophical theories in one book as a fictional book, and it's really quite interesting. So up till that point, it had been more of an inward journey, and then the finding out about the New World Order was more about the outward stuff that was going on. And, you know, it can be a bit overwhelming. So having people to talk to about it, like yourself, was really quite useful for me to just sit and just kind of, you know, work it all out together and
bounce the ideas around.
And just,
is
that what that means? Or, you know.
Exactly, and just kind of work it out. Well, I read the book, The Secrets of Shambhala, which was interesting, and I seen the movie Celestine Prophecies. There is a movie out there, Celestine Prophecies, and after us hooking up and for the few years, because we worked together for a while, and then you left and you went to another company, but we still met up and had a chat for coffee. And it was after I spent a few years doing the studying, and that's when I thought we're knackered, and then that's when I kind of got involved in the spiritual side. And it's something that I want to talk to you about as well. But I know you're obviously originally from Ghana. Did you get any information from your family about what was going on? Was there anything over there that rang a bell that you know of?
Well, yes and no. So I grew up with my grandfather and his sisters and their kids when I was young, up to the age of 9. And all of my granddad's sisters and some of their daughters, up to a certain extent, were lay preachers within the church. Quite a religious family. We're from the Methodist denomination. So I'd grown up in a very sort of loving and kindly sort of environment. But it's my grandfather who kind of had the biggest influence in the person I am.
Yeah.
Couple of things he said always stuck with me even till now. One of them was, if you knew what the real world was all about, you'd be really, really scared. And I remember him saying that that there was a different version to the Bible, and that was equally quite scary. And those were his words. And didn't really think nothing of it until as I got older. And even actually very recently, I kind of wondered, this is what Granddad was talking about all along. But growing, when I came here as a teenager and as a young lady, the only extent really to which my family influenced my development, I think, is when I sat in church and I realised, actually, this is a load of BS. I'm sorry to anybody who's religious out there, but it just didn't ring true, and I started to question what was being taught. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think, the 10, what's it called again, Ellen? My old age is showing.
Which? The 10 Commandments?
That's the one.
Yeah.
I was going to say the 10 Principles, see? That's how much I've washed my brain, but I can't remember. But I think they serve a purpose, especially if you're bringing up kids to grow up the right way. So it served me a purpose in keeping me on the straight and narrow, and not being a raging maniac and a murderer. But when you strip it down and you go deeper, it just didn't resonate and sit with me. And I think that's when I started seeking to know a bit more. And then I started looking into other religions. I looked into Buddhism. I studied Islam, and all in between, the Wiccan aspect of things. And I realized they're all more or less saying the same thing, although I think Buddhism probably resonated with me more because it just made sense. It was just a very logical approach to living,
Yeah.
Treat someone good, they'll treat you good, Be nice to someone. It's very crudely put in it, but you know what I mean? As opposed to...
That's the kind of spiritual way. Like, spirituality, for me, is just a way of life. It's not a religion. Yeah. And treat others as you want to be treated, and that's it, really. I mean, do no harm, and, and live your life and do what you can. And if you can help people out, go ahead and do that. That's kind of my motto. I think, Steve, what about you? The same? Think the same way?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're all just here. What do you say? We're all just spiritual beings having a human experience. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, isn't it? That's it. I mean, and as you always say, and again, Aidan said it there, just the previous guest before you, Lorraine, he said, whatever the question is, love is the answer.
Yeah, completely that. And it's not, actually, as I've got older, only in the last few years that I actually came across this theory that as humans, we only know 2 emotions. And again, when I learnt those things, it's like another penny dropped and everything cleared up even more. And those 2 emotions are love and fear.
That's it.
And when you realise that the negative emotion is the one that's kind of played upon a lot in order to control us. And the reason why a lot of people are at dis-ease and feel disconnected is because they want to be at the love aspect. So, you know, once you understand how that affects people, it all just kind of makes sense and hopefully should to guide people a bit better than what you're being told you should or need to do. Or, you know, you need to own this and you need to have that and you've got to look like this and you've got to look like that.
All the kind of materialism in the world and the superficial side of things. And yeah, I mean, as you say, we said this on the show before. There's only 2 emotions, love and fear. Which one do you want to be? And what I've said before on the show is that people say, well, how do you get into the love energy? Because that's a higher vibration. And what I say to people is, think back in your life, in a time in your life where you were really happy, that you were kind of buzzing, whether it's a new relationship or a birth of a child or marriage or whatever it was, and think back to that energy. And that's the energy you really need to be at. That's what we need to be vibrating on, because that has so many benefits from a health point of view as well. But there's so many positive benefits of thinking back and being like that. And I know you yourself, you do an awful lot. I know you're a martial artist as well. And Sometimes. On occasion.
On and off. I haven't trained properly for a while. But I was in Dublin last summer doing a tournament, funnily enough.
And you didn't even call me and say, let's meet up for a coffee.
I'm sorry. It was like literally 2 days and then out again.
Yeah, they normally are, aren't they, the tournaments?
Can we just ask, really, I'm just curious, what sort of martial art do you do?
It's a Korean martial art. It's called Tang Sudo, and it's very similar to Taekwondo.
Ah, okay.
And there is an association we have an Irish association.
Oh, because Steve's son does Taekwondo. My son did it until he got to a certain belt, and he thought, no, this is too much work, and decided to give it up. But he'd probably go back. Will he though? I don't know.
Well, from what again, I don't know. Maybe Reenie can enlighten us. But we have heard that once you get to blue belt, the syllabus gets a little bit more difficult, and a lot of people kind of do fall off a blue belt, but then they do tend to come back.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, what's been amazing for me, I turned to it at a point when I was going through quite a lot of, not so great things, and it really changed my life. I went from not feeling that coordinated. I remember being a white belt and thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to remember the form, the moves you do up and down the hall.
Yeah.
And just feeling all fingers and thumbs. And then with every belt you go up, that sense of achievement, it's amazing. I think it goes again back to the need for love, and it's that kind of validation that you can do something. So I always said I'd stop at red because that's my favourite colour. And within our style, it's 3 from black belt. So after red, you've got red tag, Chodambo, which is a dark blue, and then black. And the only reason I haven't progressed at the moment is because the work I'm doing, I work a lot in the evenings. So whereas I would go training, I'm actually training other people doing fitness. So it's kind of halted me a little bit. But I find with the younger people, their interests change, they might get a little injury, their focus changes, and so they don't continue. Although, some people get to black belt very quickly, and then I suppose they feel like, oh, well, I've done it now. I'm going to do something else like football or dance. Yeah,
and that's not the point of the whole martial art thing, because it's not just about getting the belt. It's about the physical side, being in a group, being in a club, and the health, benefits, the exercise, and the camaraderie, everything.
I'm sorry, Alan, to cut you, but it's also the principles of it. Like we have creeds and tenets, and I know I always remember them when I'm feeling not so great, because like our 7 tenets read like, what we'd all aspire to be. So it goes like integrity, concentration, humility, indomitable spirit. So all those things that will help you when you're kind of not in a great place were the things that they try to teach us. So you're right. It is great from that point of view, not just getting the belts. not just the physical side. It's great training, the physical side of it, but yeah, it is a way of life.
The mental side as well. And are you doing life training skills? Is that what you're working at now?
So I do a little bit of everything, the whole mind, body and spirit. I do life coaching, I do nutritional guidance, and I do personal training. I also work with people who are referred from the doctor for various conditions, like whether it's diabetes or high blood pressure, where the doctor would refer them for exercise, because exercise has been scientifically proven, believe it or not, to help with a myriad of different health conditions.
And based on your knowledge now about the New World Order and everything else, and about the whole medical side, what's your take on that?
Oof, well, where do we start? Where do we start? I mean, I don't know if you've ever followed a blog called Natural News, amongst many others. It's really worrying about the number of holistic doctors, or doctors who are coming out and saying that, for example, things like cancer, supposedly there is a cure. There are many cures. And they're all being found dead. So I have become a scaredy cat in this room, I have to say, and kind of shy away.
Well,
from too much on it, but
well, the holistic doctors who are being found dead are because they're exposing the GMAF.
That's right.
And it's not so much, the cannabis oil and the juicing and a multitude of other cures for cancer, but it was the GMAF that the holistic doctors were coming out and telling people about, and that's the reason why they were being killed.
No,
but that's
anyone who's teaching people the natural way, and the fact that you can live better and longer and not need medicine, kind of being hunted down, it seems, and being done away with, really, which is really sad. It's quite shocking, really.
Yeah.
Although not really, like I said, you find out to a certain level, and then you think, oh my God, this is really scary, and then you say to yourself, well, how can you ever take them on? All you can do is be informed and put the information out there without really kind of speaking against anyone. It's kind of my approach now.
Okay. And have you kind of backed away now and just kind of get on with it, as opposed to being like what we're doing? I mean, obviously we do the radio show, so we're kind of quite out there with all the guests that we get on. But, you've been as open as long as I have been, since 2001, and so have you kind of said, well, I've done my bit and I've done my education for people, so now I'm going to kind of focus on the bits and pieces I need to focus on?
Only in the sense that my passion has always been wellness, education and wellness definitely, but wellness is definitely more the focus now. And I just believe the information is out there, with the growth of social media and the internet generally. There's even the dark net, as they call it. So since, the information that is out on the internet seems to be getting shut down, or the people who are proponents of freedom and, access to information and knowledge, like that young guy who supposedly killed himself. I've forgotten his name. What's his name? Is it Ryan somebody Schwartz? The guy who was being taken to court by a university in the US. I
don't know that case. Do you want to tell us about it?
I'll have to send you the link, Callum. I'm sure you do, but maybe I'm just not explaining it well. But
do you know? Steve, do you know? No? Okay.
No, I haven't heard it either.
Basically, he was like another young prodigious genius, if you like, a little bit like the guy who started Napster, which is, to me is the founding father of iTunes.
Yeah.
But basically, he came to know that a lot of the medical papers and lots of textbooks, which are not really accessible to those who may not afford to go to some of the top unis, were being unfairly hidden away, if you like, and being made expensive to access. So therefore, those who don't come from a privileged background would never get access to it. And he'd found a way through his technological skills to make it open to the World Wide Web. And the Supreme Court took the university first and took umbrage to it, and then they took him to court. And while the case was all going on, he was found to have killed himself. And there's a lot of theory that he may not necessarily have killed himself, like some of those doctors. and perhaps have been bumped off.
Well, that's their modus operandi, isn't it? It's either suicide, or if you don't get your suicide, you cut your brakes. If you don't cut your brakes, they'll plant paedophile images on your computer, which we've heard about all three, down the line with the shows that we've done. And this is what they do. So obviously he upset the wrong people. I mean, we were supposed to have the lady who originally designed the iPod and the iPhone. She contacted us through email a couple of weeks ago, and she said, I'm the person who designed the iPod and the iPhone, and it was stolen off me by Apple, because Apple our situation. This is what she said to me. I'm just reading out what she said to me. So just in case there's any solicitors listening in, this is what she said to me. And she said, I designed the iPhone and the iPad, and they stole the design because Apple was in the place they were losing money hand over fist. And a musician friend of hers, apparently a friend of hers, took the idea, and he did copyright, and he obviously sold it onto Apple, and the rest is history. Now, she contacted us to come on the show, and we said, yeah, why don't you come on and talk about it? And now we don't know where she's gone. We've emailed her a couple of times, and she hasn't got back to us.
Oh, wow. And no one knows if she's alive and well or anything like that?
Well, when we got attacked there a few years ago, the lady who we had on that week was a lady called Seven. And Seven had designed these TV shows, like Strictly Come Dancing and Come Dine With Me, and a few of these TV shows. She had designed them. And naively, she went into a meeting with the likes of the BBC and stuff, and they stole her ideas and then tried to kill her. Allegedly, this is what she told us. And that show is available on our YouTube page if people want to go and listen to it. She's called Seven. So these TV shows that you're seeing were not concepts by people in the BBC. This was ideas that she had, and they were stolen. And this lady knows Seven because the two of them have talked to each other. And I've seen the interview where the two of them have been talking to each other, and I think it was with your man, what's his name, Weber.
Andrew Lloyd?
No, we had Alfred Weber. Did a show with the two girls talking to each other, and again you can go on YouTube, search for Alfred Weber, and you can see the two girls talking to each other, Seven and this other girl. So there are people out there who come up with ideas, and the ideas are stolen, and this lady didn't get back to us. So I know you have to be careful in what you do as well, but at the same time, when you have kind of a moral conscience and you just know that the energy is there, that you feel that you're inspired or spurred on to do this, it's very hard to contain that.
No, definitely. I mean, like I said, I did get to a stage where it was all kind of, oh my God, this is all so scary. So let me just focus on the wellness. And like I said, I feel like the info's out there. For those who want to know more, they'll find a way to know more. And then for those who are like, oh, well, I don't care if that's the truth anyway. Doesn't matter how much you try to show them the truth. They won't be interested in it. So I kind of focus on getting people to understand their emotions and manage their emotions and manage their physical wellness, and everything else hopefully will take care of itself, And
with your circle of friends now, are they open-minded now to this, or do you kind of do the same thing where you have your friends who are open-minded, and then you have some friends who are not, they're friends, but you don't talk about it?
It's a bit of both, isn't it? There are some people who they kind of go on and on. Sometimes it's like the extremes. Some people go on and like, oh my God, it's really bad. And, they go off on one, but to me, there's no real solution in that. And it then becomes very negative energy. So because I can't think of a solution other than maybe a higher spiritual intervention to sort out the mess that we're in there, which apparently the Earth civilization has collapsed and risen many times, so maybe it has to collapse again, because it just seems as if it's spiraling out of control.
What do you think of the Planet X and all that kind of stuff, and talk about energies hitting the planet? What's your take on that?
From which aspect?
Well, okay, basically we've had people on the show talking about that. Our solar system, our planetary system, is apparently going into a new part of the universe, the galaxy. And there's this central part in the galaxy, the center of the galaxy, which is affecting the energy of the planet, and the Schumann frequency has actually gone up multiple frequencies. It used to be on 7.5, but now it's up at 21 megahertz or something. And so a lot of people are saying that things are happening, like they're feeling different energies. There's, they're not sleeping, their diets have changed, and a number of other issues coming up because of these energies hitting the planet.
See, I'm not sure what to make of that myself. I had also heard that a lot of the people being born in these times now, I don't know if you've heard about the crystal and rainbow children.
Yeah.
Really special kind of spirits that are being born essentially to save us because we're in such a mess. So I don't know enough, and I think this is why I've stepped back a little bit, because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a medium to that degree, so it's what other people are saying, and I suppose I want a bit more hard facts, if you like. I can sense there's a shift and there's a change, but I also just feel that most people around me are just lost. Are completely lost. They're so sucked into what they see on TV, what they read. They want to be in that particular lifestyle. And I don't see how it's going to change. It just seems as if it's going to get worse, especially with the technologies that are being developed. There's a guy I train who said him and someone else are developing a technology that can read people's, like you can attach it to your head and it will read brain signals so that you can see people, you can read people's emotions. And this is something they're looking to sell to marketeers so that marketeers can see how potential customers feel about their products. Social media is bad enough, but this is actually taking it to a physiological element. And I can't see a way back from that, like I said, unless, let's say the rising of this energy on the earth is a good thing rather than a bad thing, and it means things will get better, then great, all for it. What do we have to do to help is what I say.
Yeah.
But is it the reason why things are so bad? I don't know, but it just seems to me that the people who run the world, as it were, have been in charge for hundreds of years and no one's standing up to them. They're just evolving how they do it. They've become more sophisticated at it. And it's just amazing that the human condition just doesn't change. Somebody tells you, X is blah, and you're like, oh yeah, and you just go with it.
No question.
For example, trends, like the fact that beards, I don't know if you've noticed, beards is a trend at the minute. And it really just annoys me. Not because I have a thing against beards, but once upon a time, everybody wanted to be clean shaven. And because it's a trend, you'll go on telly, you're walking around and everybody has a beard because somebody said, let's all have a beard.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's
mostly, I've noticed it's a lot of young people, like people who have obviously not been shaven for too long. They seem to be growing beards because you're absolutely spot on there. I've noticed that as well. And sometimes you'll see an elderly gentleman like with a beard and it's kind of maybe flecks of grey in it. And I mean, that's kind of acceptable. When you see kind of a young lad going around sprouting a beard, you think, well, my honest opinion is he's just doing that to look older to get into the clubs.
Yeah, once upon a time that would definitely be the case, but I definitely know that is the look. That is the look because, I do keep a little eye on some of the rags, as they're called, to see what nonsense they're feeding the general masses. And that's what was coming up. Oh, this is the trend now, and literally every other person, male, would have a beard, and they're so controlled they don't even realise it. Everybody just wants to be hip and cool. That you could just say to them, this is what you need to do now. They will do it, and this is how the things that we don't really want, like the erosion of our freedom, this is how it slowly become normalised.
But it's all programmed, isn't it? It's all programming. It's all the superficial, materialistic approach and people wanting to be... I mean, here's something that I've noticed, Reenie, which you've probably seen, and Steve's probably seen as well. What's with it with all these girls shaving their eyebrows and then painting them on, looking like a Barbie doll? I see this all the time, and not just young girls. I see mothers and women in the 40s, 50s, and the eyebrows get shaven off forever, and they're painted on. You know, and I think, you know, well, some people need art lessons for starters because they're crooked. But that's obviously it's some kind of new fashion and trend now, is it?
Yeah. Well, is it fair to say, Alan, that, you know, us women and men would never understand the things that each other find cool to do? It's just another trend. It will pass. It'll be something else. I think scarier for me is, you know, is things like people being told, you know, that the tattoo trend is scarier for me, for example, you know, and the wearable technology, because I think it's, like you said, it's just a normalization of what they really want to introduce.
Well,
Once upon a time, only spies wore Bluetooth in their ears, and then they made it a thing that everybody had to have. So now you don't know who's actually working for MI5 and who's just an ordinary person, you know?
Well, it's the microchipping. I put an article up on the OYM Facebook page about the UN wants to bring out microchipping, which we've known about for a long time, you know, the mark of the beast. And then they
started it. I think I saw, isn't it from 2016, every child, 2016 or 17, within the next 2 or 3 years, every baby born in Europe is going to have to be chipped.
Yeah.
Sure, I saw that recently.
That's right. And, you know, I mean, to be honest with you, if it was me and I was a parent, the answer would be no straight away. You know, make sure you're in the labour ward. And they'll come up with the excuses as usual. But let's focus on the positives, and let's focus on where do you think we should go? Do you think we should be looking at ourselves, inside ourselves, spiritually, and start working on ourselves, and not so much to hell with the outside world, but start working on our own energy and our own health, and just doing as much as we can?
Definitely. And this is, like I said, this is where my focus is helping people understand. There's nothing more powerful than understand who you are, what you're about, you know, what makes you tick, what your values are. And then everything else kind of falls into place. Once you get that, you can then kind of make yourself a life goal and aim towards that. Understand the roots of being well from an emotional point as well as a physiological and an external point. Focus on understand that, like we said, us as humans, we only feel love and fear, and understand how enormous that impacts your life. Once you kind of get all of that, and, you know, you're not so consumed by consumables, as it were, and you know, you're more about being well and being, you know, having that perspective that allows you to be happy no matter what your situation is. Not to say you settle for less than what you can be, you know, because I think the whole law of attraction thing, when it was hyped up, had a way of leading people down a rabbit hole and not really teaching them that, yes, you can focus on what you want and want it, but how does that work in actual fact, in reality? You know, you can't just wish upon a star to be at something and then it will just happen because the law of attraction says so. You know, so understanding how all of that work, how energies work, and once you're not so consumed by consumables, that will hit the capitalists where it hurts, which is their pocket, because that's the only way they function.
Well, we can't, I mean, the world can't keep going on the way it's going at the moment, the whole consumerism, because it's just an impossibility. We're going to destroy the planet, because that Texaco or Super Value or whatever truck turning up every day with the food and all the gadgets, that can't keep happening. It's an impossibility, and people need to realise that. And what will happen is, because we are destroying the planet, I mean, how many forests are we destroying on a daily basis to supply this consumerism where we use something and then we throw it away again? I mean, when I was over in America, we went into an electronics place, an electronics shop, and you had these massive TVs at the time, and they were very cheap. And we said, wow, these are very cheap. You know, if we had the money, you'd buy one and stuff like that. And the guy said, no, you have to understand, the day after that telly, the warranty is up. Literally a day after, bang, it's going to go. Redundancy has been built into.
That's right. We heard about that before, didn't we?
Yeah. And cars and stuff.
A guy actually done that, Lorraine, with a printer. He actually has a video on YouTube where he said after so many months or so many pages, the printer just stopped. So he'd done some research, and he found some software by some Russian scientist. He was able to access this obsolescence chip, or I think that's what he called it anyway, on his printer, and he could see that it had been set to, it was gone to 0. So he was actually, with the aid of this software, able to reprogram the chip, and whatever he done, and he said once he'd done that, bang, the printer started working again. And he said you have to remember that obsolescence is built into everything you buy. And actually, would you believe, and again, this is kind of just a little bit off topic, someone told my father about 3 years ago, he was looking for a part for his washing machine, and they wanted to know the make and model. He gave the make and model, and at the time it was about maybe 7-8 years old, and the person who he was speaking with said, wow, that's unheard of, because they're only built to last 3 to 4 years.
That's it.
Yeah, I had heard that, and definitely even with things like cars. I think a mechanic saying to me that they built, whereas once upon a time they were built so each part could be taken out and rebuilt and replaced. Now they make the parts that come off much bigger, so it's more expensive to repair, so that you just get another one.
Yeah, that's it. It's all got to do with, because if you bought something and it lasted for a long time, then how would they make the money? I mean, it's logic. It is logic. But like Aidan said, our last guest, love is the answer. It doesn't matter what the question is. And I do think that, we've said it time and time on the show before, that our path in life for everybody is to move away from ignorance and ego and move towards humility and wisdom. And we all have to do that. And we talk about the fluid belief system time and time again. Again, we said it to Aidan about, if your glass is full, if you can't empty that glass and put in more knowledge, then you've got a closed mind and you're not going to learn. It's only by having an open mind and challenging your belief system will you keep on learning.
Well, that's why one of my favourite quotes, I'm sure you've come across before, is, that the wise man knows he knows nothing at all, and the fool thinks he knows it all, You never stop learning. I love learning, and having children for me is also a chance to learn, because you learn through their eyes, their sense of wonder and their sense of curiosity, which over the years we kind of lose. I've also dabbled in, reading angel cards, and one of the cards that I love whenever it comes up is like the child card, which kind of reminds you that you should remember your sense of wonder as a child, which you do often quite forget.
Yeah, no, totally. I think my philosophy in life is, the more I know, the more I realise I don't know.
Oh yeah, totally.
Was it Socrates said that, I think?
Is it? He nicked it from me, did he?
He did, yes, Socrates.
Bloody cheek. Can't have that in these days, people trying to nick it off. You should trademark that.
Well, people retweet and repost. I think he probably reposted yours.
Did he have Twitter in his time? I don't know.
I'm sure. Atlantis, I'm sure, has Twitter. Maybe it was called something else.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, well, listen, we're getting to that time, really, and it's been brilliant having you on the show and having a proper. Sorry.
No, I said it's been great. I hope you got everything you wanted.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, we're gonna have to chat anyway. We'll talk off air and we'll catch up on a few things. But it was great having you on and having a chat with you and just getting your take. The whole idea behind it was to say that there's people around us who wake us up. Does maybe Steve will turn around and whoever helped Steve in his time, Steve can get on and he can have the chat with them. And so everybody kind of gives everybody else a nudge in some way. Maybe it's directly or it's indirectly, but, we're all, and this is kind of the 100 monkey thing, where we're all learning and passing on the information. And hopefully if we keep doing that and we keep waking people up, then there will be a time, hopefully in the near future, that, all of us, there'll be enough of us awake. We don't have to have everybody awake, but there will be enough of us awake that we can make the change that needs to be made, really.
And on a light-hearted note before I go, I always remember you, Alan, because everywhere I am, whatever I'm doing, it's not as weird as you think it's going to sound, I promise. Do you remember that famous line of yours? Every time I would come up to you and I'm like, Alan, something's not working on my machine. And before I even finish the sentence, what do you always say to me? did you reboot it? Sorry, my Irish accent's really bad.
So that's it. So when Rainey thinks of me, it's did you reboot it? That's quite, I don't know, would take that as a compliment or an insult. Did you reboot it? It's a bit.
I have people I've shared that with because it applies to everything, to your cooker, to your washing machine, to just switch it on and off, your phone. Do you know how many times that has worked for absolutely every electronical item?
There you go.
Seriously.
I feel like that guy in the IT crowd because before they finished talking on the phone, he said, did you reboot? Because it does. And maybe what people have to do is reboot their life.
Exactly. Ties in nicely.
Maybe that's what needs to be done. Well, really,
I may have kickstarted your, opening your mind, but you've also taught me that, so
each
one, as they say.
We learn from each other. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Now, I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Thanks for coming on. I will touch base with you during the week. And Steve is going to get all your contacts because on a serious note, from a business point of view, you're helping an awful lot of people in what you're doing. And obviously we try and help promote people who are doing that. So, Steve, over to you.
Yeah, Lorraine. I've been feeling, I thought I was going to feel like a gooseberry when you and Alan start chatting, but no, I have to say, you have kept it very professional, so thanks very much for that. I was going to suggest everyone
Alan's very good. I didn't know he had the talent. Well done.
Oh, I tell you.
It's only a vicious rumour. I'll deny it all the time.
Well, do you know what? He's had this talent for about, as long as I've known him, he's had great talents. He's educated me in a lot of things, and he's helped me on my journey through this weirdy world. He's a great guy.
Check's in the post.
The check is in the, and he does deserve a pat in the back, and I don't think he gives himself enough. Actually, he does give himself enough credit.
Do I?
No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. But again, thanks for coming on. The information has been great, and we have this fictitious thing that goes on the chat room. And if the guest is good, they get voted for the pub crawl. You've been voted for the pub crawl, so you're a shoe in there. But come here,
I'll have to fly over just for that.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have it in your town. We'll have it in your house. Anyway, come here. Where can people find out more about you and your work?
So I have a website, but it needs a little bit of tidying up. I will give it to you. Do you want me to say it out, or shall I text it to you when we finish? Well,
you can. If you want to just call it out there, I'll just get it up on the chat room. I'll type it down as quick as I can.
It's quite easy. It's coachloreen.com. www.coachloreen.com.
Okay, and that's Lorraine as in Loreen.
Yep.
Okay, coachloreen.com.
Okay, I'll get that up in the chat room. And while I'm doing it, I'm going to put it up in our chat room. I want to apologise to the people on People's Internet Radio chat room. I couldn't access that tonight, so if there were questions there or comments, I do apologise. For whatever reason, I couldn't get to them I couldn't log in on this PC. But again, Lorraine, sorry, it's been great information, and we look forward to having you on again.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. It's been great chatting with you guys. Keep up the good work.
Brilliant. Okay, Rainey, just stay with us there for a minute. We're going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com.
And we're back, and Alan just asked me there, why did I pick that piece of music? And I just said, because I could. I robbed it of Alan's 45 collection there last week.
I am a Knight Rider fan, not the Michael Knight, not the Hasselhoff, the car. I do like the car.
You don't like the Hoff?
No, I do like the car.
Okay.
I'm a fan of the car, anything like that. Yeah. It's quite good. So, there you have it. That was Rainey. That's a friend of mine that I've known since 2001, who helped me on my journey by starting me off, talking about things, but obviously giving me the big secret by David Icke, which really opened up a lot of doors and put the jigsaw together of all the information that I had going on in my head. And a great woman to talk to, and very open-minded. You could talk to Rainey about anything. It's a pleasure talking to her, and it's great having a chat on the show with her. And it's just amazing how many people you come across in your life that you bond with and you have a good chat with, and so I'm sure we've all have come across people like that in our life that has helped us in some way or open their mind to bigger things. So we'll probably do it again sometime. Maybe in a few months' time we'll get a few subjects and get Rainey on to get her take on it and see how it goes.
Well,
there you go.
Just considered before she came on, she was just saying to us before you brought her in that she was a little bit anxious about coming on. She didn't think she'd be able to do the whole. I think she was expecting maybe a shorter interview, and Alan said to her it'll be about 45 minutes, and she was kind of I think she was hoping that she'd be able for 45 minutes, but she was more than well able for 45 minutes. I'm sure you could do 2 hours or straight.
Well, there's an awful lot of subjects that we could touch base on. Now, we don't want to kind of dwell on anything that's on the negative, but I mean, we can actually touch base on it. But, obviously, that we won't go too deep down the actual, down the rabbit hole, because the rabbit hole can go down very, very deep, and we don't want to do that. But we definitely look again in the future to get it back on. But, right, so next week, who do we have on? Well, we have Dr. Joseph Cipollone.
Ah, the good old doctor.
Dr. Joseph said he would be happy to come back on the show. After a few months of being off the media, he hasn't been talking to anybody and doing anything, but he's decided to come back on. Now, we really want to have a talk with Dr. Joseph because there's been a lot of things predicted, as you all know, especially in September. And there's a lot that didn't happen. If anything does, most of the things didn't happen. I mean, the obvious things that the Pope did go to America, that happened. And, a few obvious things that did happen. But the whole kind of the asteroid hitting the planet and Planet X and all that kind of stuff. Although, I did get a photo from Danny and Catherine, who are listeners to the show. They took a photo of Loch Crew, of the sun, up at Loch Crew. I don't know if you've seen the photo, Steve.
No.
And basically, you have the sun in the sky, and just underneath, there's another little kind of sun. And I thought, that's interesting. I don't know whether, the jury's out whether it's a kind of a lens flare or just a kind of camera effect. But it seems a bit strange. And also, there's another photo where there's kind of a greenish orb or globe in the corner of the picture, which has nothing got to do with the sun whatsoever. Now, we know there's a lot of energies up in Loch Crew for obvious reasons, because they're where the megalithic graves are, 3000 BC. So if people don't know about Loch Crew, go on Google and type Loch Crew in Oldcastle, Ireland, and you'll see the megalithic graves there. Loads of energy. A lot of people go up there for the summer and winter solstice because it's very high. It's about 100 feet up. It's a bit of a climb, but it's worthwhile going up and checking it out, and you'll see all the rocks and the designs and stuff like that. So, quite interesting. So we have Dr. Joseph Cipollone next week. Now, Dr. Joseph talks about, he reckons that our time is up on the universe and the planet, that's it, and the question he puts out to people, and you have to ask yourself this question. He said, in the last 20 years, has your life and has society got worse or better? So that's a question that Dr. Cipollone would say, and it's something for you guys to consider, for the listeners to consider. Ask yourself that question and ask your friends and family. In the last 20 years, has your life and society got better or worse? And of course, make up your mind from that. But Dr. Cipollone has the belief that the system is going to implode because it has to. And if you go to his website, he has all the information there, starting from the very start, as to why the world came about and why it happened, and it shouldn't have happened, and it was taken over and manipulated. And we know about that because we've heard that time and time again by the archons and all that kind of stuff. So, worthwhile, if you want to get into it. Now, he has a number of books he wrote about as well. He wrote about this, and we've interviewed him before in the past on the show. I think this is going to be his third interview on OYM. So we're just going to get his take on it, and then, and see what he says. So it's going to be quite interesting anyway.
Oh, it'll be interesting. I mean, he's never dull. He can be accused of being many things, but dull and boring are definitely not one of them, or two of them anyway. It'll just be interesting to see what his take is now and what's going on, because the last we heard from Dr. Joseph Cipollone was that he sent us notification to say that's it, no more interviews, because what was coming down the line was coming down the line, and he was told that he had done his work, and he was to step away because we were all going to be taken off planet or whatever was going to happen. But it didn't happen. Now, again, if he had been getting his information from a third party, then we could say, okay, well maybe the third party changed their mind, but he was supposed to have been getting his information from the source, if you like. So it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say. It's going to be controversial, and as usual, I'm sure Alan will be putting his devil's advocate hat on. So that's going to be a good show next week.
Brilliant stuff. That's it. That's the plan. So, from ourselves.
From
ourselves. Have a good week. Stay safe. Take it easy. The T-shirts are going to be in this week if you fancy getting a T-shirt and supporting OYM. Again, thanks a lot for the people who make donations to the radio show. It's a big help. Everything helps because it keeps the wheels in motion. Thanks a lot. For myself, Alan James, have a good week. Take care. Bye-bye.
And for myself, Stephen George, stay tuned to People's Internet Radio. If you're on the stream, stay tuned. If you're on Airstream, we're going to be ceasing transmission now momentarily, so stay tuned to PIR. Ben Gilroy is going to be Vin's guest, and that's going to be a fantastic show from 9 o'clock till midnight. Until next week, we'll do it again. Take care. Bye-bye.